Record, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back tonight. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. He jumped up and...
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncourt for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields hails Columbus 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Kirk Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern Time, the only premium time zone. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by Campus.com. Matt Bruning, Austin Nace are here. Chris Moxley is out on a handcrafted, hand-spun, and all-natural white meat version of tonight's show. We talked to Noah Hills about the 2023 running back class, and we play Can You Name That Recruit? But we start with Alan True from 24/7 Sports. Alan covers recruiting for in the Midwest for 24/7. He also covers University of Michigan recruiting for the Detroit News. You can find him at Alan True on Twitter. Alan, before we start talking to you about recruits, you've been covering the draft or recruiting for a very long time, having started in high school. For our audience that aren't familiar with your background, can you please just tell them how you came about, getting started so young?
Yeah, we had to learn HTML in 8th grade. Everybody had to build a website, and I built a draft scouting website on GeoCities. And that was back when there weren't a ton of draft sites. There were only a handful, so it got seen. And then I thought a couple of years later, I kept it going, and I thought, you know what, I'm just going to apply for an NFL Combine credential. And again, back then it wasn't covered as much. So I got credentialed as a teenager, got driven down to Indianapolis by my mom, went back for a couple of years after I could drive myself, and then eventually found my way to scout.com, which is what ended up merging now with 24/7. And they transitioned me over to recruiting. I started getting a little bit interested in recruiting. I played a little bit in high school, played against some guys that ended up getting recruited. So I had kind of a line into some guys in West Michigan that were getting recruited, and this area wasn't getting a ton of coverage. And so transitioned over to recruiting, and then I guess the rest is history. I'm still a draft guy at heart, but been doing recruiting for about 15 years now.
There was a point in your high school where you were skipping class to take calls. I mean, to do radio hits. Isn't that right?
I did ESPN radio. I can't remember what year. It was either my 9th or 10th grade year, and I did have to skip out of homeroom in order to stay home and do an ESPN radio call. That is correct.
How are you not the were you the coolest kid in school? No, I can't come to science today. I got to go hop on ESPN radio.
I was gonna say this. I don't know if this will surprise you at all or not, but back then it wasn't like NFL draft analysis was pulling in the chicks, or that wasn't exactly what was driving the social circles at that time.
All right, Alan, we're having you on because we've been having this debate internally about UCLA commit Dante Moore, UCLA enrollee, I should say, Dante Moore. I'm guessing that there's no one probably, anywhere in recruiting or even coaches who are evaluating him who has seen Dante Moore in person. You're in Michigan. Dante Moore went to Detroit King there in Michigan. Is Dante Moore special? And if so, why?
Yeah, so I did see him at a middle school camp in Chicago and saw him I think the first 7-on-7 tournament he played with Detroit King when he still hadn't even won the job. I mean, he's an 8th grader. And then I saw the very first varsity game he played in. So I have seen him a lot. To me, he's definitely special. He's as ready of a quarterback prospect as I've seen coming out of high school. And this is with the caveat that guys like Trevor Lawrence and Bryce Young, et cetera, weren't in my region. But as far as up in the northern states in the Midwest, I haven't had a guy. I've had other talented quarterbacks. I've not seen one that's as polished and as ready as Dante Moore. And like these kids are so scrutinized when they get these stars next to their name. Everybody is ready to hate on them. I can name everybody who was hating on every top recruit from the state of Michigan or the Midwest in the last 15 years. I have emails and receipts. I don't know that anybody has poked any holes in Dante Moore's game around here. He's like universally acknowledged as this guy's the real deal inside the state. And I think if you watch the All-American Bowl in that setting, you saw glimpses of why. I mean, he throws guys open. It's not like he's just cannon foddering big throws down the field. I mean, this guy is making throws into windows and making reads and doing things that I haven't seen other quarterbacks do at his age. And that was immediately his freshman year when the Detroit King coaches said, hey, I think we might have something special here. Their comment to me at the time was, what he's doing when we play these suburban teams, the Catholic Centrals of the world, what he's doing against those teams when they try to run zone. He's reading them and he's throwing into windows and he's anticipating things as a freshman. We haven't seen this before. And I think that continued to progress. And that's why I think in a world where we tend to misevaluate traits, we tend to misevaluate guys who can throw the ball through walls but can't do anything else. This guy has a lot of the intangibles and the positional skills that you can miss from time to time.
I think we've uniformly given him credit for that. These things that you're talking about really go to his football IQ and his ability to win the game with his mind. But you also think that he's not given enough credit for his physical ability. Just speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he was known as this, polished, consistent, accurate. And so along the way, and especially because he was getting compared to guys like Nico Lamaleva and Malachi Nelson and guys who had super arm talent, it became like, well, Dante Moore is not as traitsy as those guys. Well, just because he's not maybe as traitsy as some of those guys doesn't mean that he lacks in the physical department. And so I think he's now become underrated in terms of, like, if you watch him throw the football, he can really spin the football and he's got the arm to make all the throws. He just knows when to take something off of it, put some touch on it. He's a better athlete too than I think he's given credit for. And I think he took that criticism to heart. He worked out at this gym called The Cave in Detroit, and they really helped him transform his body. And when he needs to run, you see glimpses of it. He's never going to be, a true dual threat kind of guy, but he can move well enough. He knows how to navigate the pocket. And so I think I think it's become one of those things where, his intangibles in that part of his game are so good that people now sleep a little bit on his physical traits.
You spoke to his, ability to navigate the pocket. He's not a true dual threat. Obviously, at UCLA, we know Chip Kelly has had Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Marcus Mariota. Dante does not fit the same mold as those two. That being said, I agree with you. If I had to bet on a quarterback in this class starting a game tomorrow and being competent, like without having practiced, out of the kind of the big four in this class, I would pick Dante Moore to be competent. So I'm wondering what you think. We're having this debate internally in Austin. You can speak to it. Do you think that he can start as a freshman on day one. You got Colin Schlee there. Colin Schlee has G5 experience. Obviously, has played big time college football, but they're both new to the school, new to the system. It's not like Colin Schlee has had extensive time with the playbook. And I personally think that there's a chance that he comes out of fall camp, maybe not spring, but fall camp as the starter.
So I'll say this too. That was the situation he was in at Detroit King. When I saw him play 7-on-7, he was an 8th grader up on the varsity. There was a senior that he was competing with, and they were saying, obviously, like, we're not going to hand the job to this middle schooler. He's going to have to earn it. And then lo and behold, game 1 at Wayne State in a kickoff classic against the perennial power Catholic Central, he's out there starting and, bringing them back in that game. They fell short, and then it goes on to bring them to the state title game that year. I've never seen him look uncomfortable. So can start day 1? Absolutely. I think he's as ready as anybody in this class. And will he? That's a different question, because I do think if things had held the way they were and Dante ended up at Oregon, you'd feel pretty good about Colin Schlee as the starter at UCLA, right? He's no slouch. And so I don't want to say that Dante's just going to walk in and win that job immediately. I do think by the end of the year, Dante Moore will have started a few games. I don't know if that will be day 1, though.
Austin, do you want to defend your position that you see him sitting this year?
No, because I think my answer is the same as what Alan just said. I agree with you that I think he's the most ready guy, but I think Colin Schlee is better than you think he is, Felix. I think he's a decent Power 5 quarterback. I think he'll go there. I think he actually fits even Chip Kelly's system a little bit better too. Like he is more mobile than Dante Moore. I don't know if he has a better arm or anything like that, but I just think, kind of an RPO heavy scheme, probably what they'll run with those two guys there. I think Schlee is familiar with it, and I think he's the better athlete. So I think, that gives him a leg up this year, but I don't think Dante is going there to sit more than 1 year. And in fairness to like Chip Kelly and these guys, like Dante kind of fell in their lap, right? Like I don't think they were anticipating 6 months ago having Dante Moore walking in the door. And so that kind of changes plans when you can get him in there. So Oregon's loss was their gain. But I think it's Schlee day 1. It's tough to ask a freshman, especially at a big school like that. Like Trevor Lawrence didn't do it. Some of these other, I can't think.
There was an incumbent there. There was that's my point. There was an incumbent there at Clemson who had started games. It's not the same thing at UCLA. That's just kind of been the basis for my point that he can start from day 1 is that they're all starting together. So they're all taking reps for the first time together and that sort of thing. Alan, I think if we looked at 24/7's rankings, we would understand that you guys think that this quarterback class is special overall. At least the top, Nico Iamaleava. I would put Jackson Arnold there, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, and Malachi Nelson. Is it? Am I reading that correctly? That you guys think that this class has a lot of potential?
Yes, we thought it was pretty top heavy. I think there did reach a certain point where we thought other years were a little bit deeper. There weren't maybe as many guys dancing around that low 4, high 3-star range that we were like every year. There's a few high 3-stars that you got to draw the line somewhere, and you get nervous of the guys you leave out. I think we felt like this class was a little bit more top heavy than some of the other years. There are still some guys in that range that we like. But that group at the top is pretty special, and they're all very different, which I think made it really hard at the end to separate them. We talked about Dante Moore being ready. I mean, I think the second most ready guy in the class is Jackson Arnold, but he's probably the least physically impressive of that group. But watched him at the Under Armour game. I mean, I don't know if that guy missed the throw even in practice all week. He's thrown a lot of footballs in high school. And then you've got the traitsier guys, and then you've obviously got Arch Manning, who I think is he's for me a little bit of an enigma because I went to some national events. He was never at them. So I personally have seen him the least out of our staff. I'm trusting what they say, but it made for some very interesting debates because it was a very kind of, whatever you happen to like and value in a quarterback prospect, there's probably that guy for you, and whatever the next guy values, there's probably a quarterback prospect for him. And so it was just a matter of what do you prefer in some of these guys.
Alan, I know that you are you do recruiting for Michigan. Felix mentioned, so you guys got Cole Cabana, who I am a big fan of. Some people are not because they talk about how he's a little bit undersized, explosive playmaker. What do you think his upside is in going to Michigan? Do you think that he pairs well with Benjamin Hall, the other running back that Michigan got in this recruiting cycle?
Yeah, I do think, first of all, that they complement each other very well, and that was by design. I think the plan was always to, find your power back, your Hassan Haskins, so to speak, and then a guy that's a little bit more dynamic in space, and that's Cole Cabana. Now, Cole is a guy who has, he looks physically a lot different today than he did when Michigan started recruiting him. He has added some weight, and I would challenge some of those who say that he's maybe on the slighter side or he's just a speed guy to actually watch some of what he did at the end of the year. Dexter, his high school, got deep into the playoffs, and they played in several games at the end of the year where the field is covered in snow. It's completely white. It's playoff football. It's in Michigan. It's mucky. It's cold, and he was still effective in those games. And to me, those games spoke a lot to what he can do in college, because he's kind of known as this gazelle. And I thought that he showed some real grit and some toughness and some ability to grind out yardage when he couldn't just house it every play. And I thought that spoke really well to his future and maybe quieted some of those doubts about can he be an every down back, or can he be a between the tackles guy?
All right, Alan, I think it's been almost 3 years since we had you on for the first time. And during that show, we asked you to give us a recommendation for a lesser heralded guy. Do you remember who you said?
I said Baron Morton.
Baron Morton, who is widely regarded to be in consideration to start for Zach Kittley's offense this year. And since Zach Kittley came from Western Kentucky with Bailey Zappi in our game in campus to Canton leagues, that position is always very valuable. Do you got some recommendations for us this year? Some guys that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, so I now have followed the community a lot more, and I'm first of all amazed at how deep the research goes and how much the community knows about recruiting. So I feel like if it was today, I wouldn't even say Baron Morton, because somebody would know. Like, you guys would know him already. So I'm like, I have to get on my game and go like really deep here. So I'm going to throw you a few. I would look at Purdue's class. They signed a kid named Armad Branch late in that class. They're kind of unsure what he's going to do. He might play corner, might play wide receiver. We made him a 4-star when he didn't have a single offer to speak of going into mid-January. And the kid is a freak of an athlete. I mean, you look at his triple jump, long jump, high jump. He's dunking basketballs at 6'1". If that kid, if they end up keeping him on the offensive side of the ball, I think there's a great shot that he ends up playing in the pros. They have a tight end named George Burhen as well that I think is a special athlete, and I think will be a really, really good player for them and probably a next level guy. Darius Taylor at Minnesota, I think, is like a sure bet to be a productive guy in college. I mean, they're counting on him to play this year. I think they're counting on him as their back of the future. I'm a little bit unsure about, beyond college, what his NFL upside exactly is, but I think he's going to roll up a lot of yards at Minnesota, and certainly I think has a good chance to find his way into the league. Iowa signed a tight end late named Grant Leaper, who's a gray shirt. He was a basketball player that didn't play football till this year, but he's like 6'6", almost 6'7", great basketball player. And you have to trust the Iowa tight end evaluation and their lineage a little bit. So that kid flew under the radar because he wasn't a football player until this year. Going a little bit deeper, there's a kid that I'm not sure many people know about that signed with Kent State named Jared Kelly. Does that name ring a bell to anybody on this call? So this dude had 2,434 all-purpose yards as a senior only. He ran a 10.84 in the 100-meter dash. And for some reason, I don't even know why, just fell under the radar. But when you see a guy with that kind of speed, that kind of production, Kent State always seems to find some of these dudes too, these kind of multi-positional all-purpose guys. He's one of my favorite like max sleepers. Like it's hard to even like he's a sleeper within the group of sleepers. I think he's got a chance to be really good. Lamar Sperling going to Buffalo, roll up a bunch of yards. I think he's going to have a good career. And then there was a kid that signed with Old Dominion named Aquan Dunbar from the Kansas City area. He's a 6'5", 220-pound wide receiver that dealt with some injuries, and another guy who was just under the radar. But his film is really, really good. He's got size, and I think he's got a chance to be really Aquan Dunbar. That's another one. So Jared Kelly and Aquan Dunbar are probably my two like deep sleepers that even probably the recruiting community doesn't know a ton about.
I love it. We look for like those athletic guys. So Branch was a guy that popped a lot for our group. Like we've quickly become interested in him, especially when you guys out of nowhere just like handed this kid 4 stars. I mean, that's not that common either, right?
Yeah, no, but we were kind of blown away as well by the athleticism and the multi-sport background and the things he did in the track and then in basketball. And that story usually turns out pretty well when you've got those numbers at the high school level. We were maybe like a tad disappointed when we heard that he might be a DB, although I can certainly see why you'd be tempted to do that. But I think if he stays on offense, that's an explosive athlete right there.
Austin, do you know if he's in the dunk contest video that we posted? Is he in that video?
I don't think so, because we didn't like. I think he came to our attention once he got the 4th star, and Matt plugged in his athletic numbers and was like, "Holy crap!" Because
Gotcha.
Cordell Russell's a guy that we're very, very high on just because of the basketball background and he's got a very good on-field speed times, and so Branch kind of fit that mold too.
Branch, I think, I found out later, was a late to football guy also. And so I think his junior year was maybe his first year of playing high school football for sure. I don't know about if he had played youth ball or something. It was definitely his first year of high school football. And so that explains a little bit. And, Festus, Missouri, it wasn't like he was at this school that was getting recruited all the time. But I think that's a heck of a find by Purdue there.
We've been kind of saying that this class seems like it's very wide receiver quarterback heavy for like fantasy perspective purposes, and it's kind of weaker at running back. Does that seem to kind of be the consensus with you guys too, or at least not a lot of running backs that are big like last year? Like last year's class seemed very deep with guys that were already 210 plus.
Yeah, I do think that and this is true of my states as well. It was not a great running back year. That's why I think you saw some of the schools up here. If you look at the Big Ten schools, especially, a lot of them went out of region for running backs. A lot of portal action at running back too. So I think that's where I think like some guys got pushed into the MAC that are going to be pretty good. Lamar Sperling's a good example. He popped the Kentucky offer late, and the kid going to Miami, Ohio, name escapes me. I think it was like Janarius Jackson. He popped an Iowa offer late, stuck with Miami, Ohio. I think you saw some Power 5 schools kind of scramble late and try to pull some of those G5 running backs just because it wasn't a great year nationally. And those guys that stuck with those G5 schools, I think they're going to end up being really good.
Austin mentioned Cordell Russell. He is headed to TCU. He's a wide receiver, 6'2", 200 pounds. And as Alan and Austin mentioned, a 4-star according to 24/7. All right, Alan, before we get you out of here, we want to play this game with you. All right, we want to put you at backs the drink because he's ready. He's determined. We want to play this game. Name that recruit. Go ahead, Matt.
No, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go.
You're right. All right. So here, you and Matt are going to be the contestants. I'm going to actually give you the name of the recruit. So that's probably name the recruit is probably a poor name for the game. But you will both get 1 point for giving us that player's position and where they have committed. Is that fair, gentlemen? Is that fair?
Sounds like a plan. Sounds fun.
Okay. Austin, I need you to judge this thing and keep track of the score, okay?
Yeah, how I'll decide how points are divvied.
Yeah.
You guys
you can decide. You can decide. And listen, Alan, I know that you're Mr. 24/7 Sports but don't take any shame if you can't win this thing, okay? Don't, we dive into recruiting too, okay? All right.
It would be a little embarrassing, but if I lose, if I lose right here on this show live tonight, I will show you my phone. I will buy a subscription to On3 right here.
Well, hey, we're trying to get in touch with Shannon Terry anyway. So, okay. All right. No, I think that's it. All right, Alan, I'm going to come to you first. All right, ready? So remember, you got to give me the position that recruit plays and where they are going to school. Alan, Dante Moore.
Starting me tough. I'm going to say he's a quarterback, and he signed with UCLA.
You know what? That probably was a little just a little too easy to start off. But let's see how Matt does. We should have some game show music for this. We need to get our production value up. Okay, Matt, you ready?
Ready.
This is round one. This is round one. Matt, Jefferson Adam.
Running FIU.
Is that a guess?
That's a guess. That's a guess.
Yeah, no. He's an edge, Iowa State. All right, Matthew, I need you to take this more seriously. Matthew, you're trying to represent for the brand. I need you to take this a little more seriously. All right.
I didn't know we were going defense. That's my bad. I ruled those guys out.
Yeah.
We'll
You got to be
Obviously, it was an edge if you had known that. Yeah,
I know.
Right.
That's about
right. This is very obvious here. I think he's actually.
By the way,
Yeah, I was going to say.
Oh, great.
He's from Ypsilanti, so
I
right
was
now-
really hoping Alan wasn't going to know that either, but that makes it even better that he knows exactly who that is. So.
All right, you know what? Let's clean slate. That's round one. Round two here, Alan Arch Manning.
Ooh. I only know this one because I found his ID. He's a quarterback at Texas.
Austin.
survey says Texas.
Okay. All right. Let's give Matt his. Matt, you ready?
I think so.
All right, Matt. Ikani Tuiono.
Oh, geez, really? We're going to go with linebacker. Going to – no, you're shaking your head, so I'm going to change to defensive back really quick. That's what I really meant to say. Defensive back going to I don't know, Cal. We'll go with Cal.
Matt, no. That's incorrect. Guard, New Mexico. Okay?
I was close, right?
Austin, what's the score after 2 rounds here?
So Alan has 5 points. I gave him a bonus because he got Ypsilanti there, so obviously that was worth. And then Matt, unfortunately, has 0. But Matt is a late game guy, so I have.
Yes, this is true. This is true.
Back here.
This is true. He's embarrassing us right now. All right, Alan. We're gonna get these a little bit more difficult here. Alan, Cedric Baxter.
Cedric Baxter. Let's see. You know, from his running back days, he does a little bit better of a job holding on to his ID than Arch. He's got the 5 points of pressure on his ID card, but he's also at Texas.
All right, I think that's Austin. Is that right?
That's what we've got.
That's all we got. Okay. All right, Matt. We'll give you.
Right? He's just getting. Back.
These are completely. This is completely random. Completely random. All right, Matthew, get it together now. All right, I need you to concentrate. All right,
I'm ready to go.
Here we go. Genesis Smith.
Can I get a hint? No, you know what? I want a hint. I don't want a hint.
You got it. You got this, man. Come on, let's go. You got this.
Wide receiver. Louisiana Tech.
Okay, Matthew, you are not taking this seriously.
He's a DB from Cal. No, I'm just kidding.
I would have been
It's safety going to Arizona. So very close. Very close. All right, Alan, we got 2 more here for you, Alan. Matthew, gather yourself. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
Wait, Austin, what's the score?
Right now I've got 7 for Alan and unfortunately a goose egg for Matt. But again, second half guy, so I've got faith here.
All right, Matthew, come on, man. You're representing for C2C. All right, here we go, Alan. We got 2 more. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Nico Iamalieva.
I think I read a story about this guy in NIL, so I'm trying to remember what it said he was in there. I think it was a quarterback at Tennessee.
Austin?
Let's see here. Quarterback, Tennessee. We got it.
All right.
2 for 2.
All right. Okay.
You're really good at this. Just so you know.
He is. He is smoking you. I keep playing with my microphone. Matt, we'll give you double points if you get this one right. Okay?
Okay.
All
I feel
right.
like that's not going to happen. Let's go with it.
I mean, it might. It's if you just concentrate here. Rohan Fluellen.
Oh, my God. Tackle. Okay.
Matthew, come on, Matthew.
Linebacker.
Matthew, these are not.
I don't know.
Matthew, we're tossing you softballs here.
I know.
Rohan Fluellen, cornerback, TCU. You know what? We're going to do this like the 3-point.
The own backyard too, and I did not.
Exactly. I'm trying to give this to you, Matthew. All right, we got one more here. This is like the money ball shot, the last shot on the 3-point rack. This is for everything. All right, Alan, here we go. Zachariah Branch.
I got lucky here that he was in the Under Armour game and I was down there. So wide receiver, USC.
I think that's Austin. I think that's right.
We got it.
It cleans. All right. You know what, Matthew? You still have.
This is the game right here. This is the game right here.
You still have a chance here. Okay. This is the game. All right.
Okay.
Here we go. Tyler Black. You got this.
Wide receiver. No. Quarterback. Running back. We're going to go with, I'm going to stick with wide receivers. That's what I said first. Virginia. I feel like
You're close on the school, relatively close. Tyler Black, kicker, Wake Forest.
half a point.
You almost.
I hear half a point.
Yeah, right conference. I'll give you half a point there.
Right conference, right.
We're coming back. We're coming back.
You can find Alan at Alan True on Twitter for all of his recruiting articles, information, everything you need. Alan, we appreciate you joining us today.
Always a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
Later, Alan.
Matt, I think you're with me that Dante Moore starts sooner rather than later. Is that fair? I mean, we didn't really tie a bow on that conversation, but you're with me on that point, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get the hesitation. You know, Nate, I can't remember if it was an article or he posted something on Twitter about that recently, right? Like, we just have not seen a lot of freshman quarterbacks start, especially over the past couple seasons. But where I do kind of agree with you is they went and got Colin Schlee before, as Austin mentioned, Dante Moore fell in their lap. And I don't think you go get a guy like Dante Moore, even though I know it's kind of become a thing where these guys sit for a year. I still don't think you go get a guy like Dante Moore at a school like UCLA doesn't have a Caleb Williams or someone like that ahead of him and just expect him to sit for an entire year. I do think Colin Schlee likely starts the first game. I do think that is asking a lot to throw Dante Moore out there. I think we see him before like week 5 or 6, though. I think Dante I think he is that good. Everything Alan just mentioned. I mean, he's right there for us, I believe, is consensus QB2 at this point going in, where we'll be finalizing our guide here and our rankings here very soon, I believe in like 11 days, or 9 days. So we'll have that all solidified. I would not be surprised if he starts more games for UCLA this year than Colin Schlee does. Like, I just think he's that talented and he's the future for UCLA. And I think Chip Kelly wants to win now. And that's why they push so hard to get him.
Here's the scenario that the unless Schlee's just like an abject failure, which is like, yeah, I mean, it's possible. I doubt it. It could be possible. The scenario that I see that I think is close to what you were just talking about, Matt, is here's how UCLA starts off the season. They have Coastal Carolina, at San Diego State, NC Central, but then they have Utah before a bye week. And if they go out and look really bad offensively against Utah and lose that game, that could be a potential point where maybe you consider it. But on the other hand, when they come back from the bye, then they've got Washington State, Oregon State, Stanford, Colorado, and then they really, Arizona, USC, Cal, like they get into kind of a tougher part of the schedule there. So if it's going to happen early, I think it's got to happen on that bye week at the very end of September there. Otherwise, I don't know that we see him particularly early.
I mean, my thing is, I get that he's played MAC competition and why I kind of lean with Felix. And I know he didn't play the whole season, right? He missed like multiple games because of injury.
He got injured.
He missed. Yeah, I know. So I know he missed I think it was like the last 2 games for sure. I'm pretty sure. I know he wasn't in for us championship week because I was trying to figure out who to play in that week because I knew he was going to be out. It's not like he lit it up in the MAC either. In an offense that we know has produced at least fantasy studs for us and put up stats. Like I'm trying to pull it up. He passed for 2,109 yards with a 59% completion percentage. It's not like we're talking about a guy who just, again, against the MAC.
And that's with a good wide receiver core, too.
Exactly. A good offense, too. Marquez Cooper, a pretty good offensive line for MAC competition. Like, they're a team in the MAC that should, I don't want to say dominate, but play very well. It's not like he went out there and threw for 4,000 yards, close to 65, 70% completion percentage. It was just dominating in the MAC and is now taking a step up. Like, I was having a big conversation about that today about some other things with football. Like, it's a big step up for these G5 guys to go to P5 and so on and so forth. And I understand it's a big step for Dante Moore, too. It's probably a bigger step for him going from high school up to college football. But the difference is, and this is no disrespect to Colin Schlee, he's not in any bucket of talent that Dante Moore has. So, like, I'm not trying to disrespect Colin Schlee in that fact, but everybody talks about him in the CFF community like he's this absolute stud. He was not that great last year, guys. Like, he was good.
He wasn't as good as Dustin Crum. He was not as good as Dustin Crum.
That's just my big, like, everybody kicks back on that. It's like, no, there's no way. Did you see what he did? I'm like, I mean, yeah, I saw he was okay. Like, it's not like he was great. And that's where I think the difference is that Dante Moore's ceiling is the penthouse where Colin Schlee's is like the second floor of the Lincoln building or whatever it is. Like, it's not, I'm sorry, they're just not in the same area codes even. Like, and that's why to me, it's not that outrageous to say Dante Moore could start and play more games than Colin Schlee this year.
The Lincoln building out here catching strays.
I didn't know how big it was. I was trying to remember. Like, I kind of lost. Like, much like the recruiting game, my mind kind of just jumped. Happens every once in a while. I couldn't remember a very tall building somewhere.
Well, Matthew, you embarrassed us in that game. So I just want you to know
not
that.
The first time. And I'm sure there'll be many more to come.
You mentioned the freshman and supplemental draft guide. That is going to be coming out March 1st. We are trying to put the finishing touches on that. So be on the lookout. It was a lot of fun in year one being able to release the freshman and supplemental draft guide and having the community respond to our rankings. I remember distinctly the community kind of giving us some backlash for where we had Emmanuel Henderson, the consensus number 1 or number 2 running back of 5-star for Alabama, where we had him ranked. Was not very high in our rankings, and obviously he has since switched to wide receiver. So what backlash will we get this year? It's really a conversation piece. So be on the lookout for the freshman and supplemental draft guide to help you with your freshman and supplemental drafts. Fantrax should be opening leagues up again, renewing leagues here soon. So you might be able to start getting those freshman drafts on the calendar. Of course, we appreciate you tuning in here tonight on Devy Debate. If you're tuning in live, please drop us a like and then subscribe to the channel. If you like what it is that we're doing, if you like the approach that we're taking towards growing college fantasy, campus to Canton leagues, then please subscribe to what we're doing here on YouTube. Subscribe to the podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. We have a fantastic lineup with different focuses. Chasing the Natty on Mondays, Campus Life on Tuesdays, Back to Devy Wednesdays. Devy Debate releases Wednesday night, Thursday morning. Canton Bound on Fridays, and the official, our recruiting show drops on Saturday, but you can catch it during the week on YouTube. And subscribe to us on TikTok too. We're going to talk to Noah Hills here. Noah just started his website, Noah More Parties. You can go to his Twitter page at Noah More Parties on Twitter and click the link to the site. But before we do, Austin, I do want to hit just one piece of news. I mean, we haven't gotten an opportunity to react to this, but the details regarding Jaden Rashada's contract with Florida were released. Obviously, this is the contract that was not executed or that this collective was not able to execute. And we've gotten to see some of the details. And I think it's just fascinating to see some of the numbers that were in this agreement. Do you have those in front of you?
The numbers are shocking.
Yeah.
Structure was different than I anticipated it being for some reason. I don't know why that is, but they I don't know how they got their hands on this contract. But here is what this article in The Athletic said, and it was written by or contributed to by pretty much all the people that kind of work there. Like a bunch of them kind of came together to write this piece. But here's what the article said. Rashada signed their NIL contract. It called for, make sure that you're seated and you know in good heart health before you listen to this. If you're not, fast forward a minute, 2 minutes. $500,000 up front, which I believe he did receive and had to pay back, is the rumor. After that, his payments would increase from $250,000 a month as a freshman to $291,666.66 a month as a sophomore, to $375,000 a month as a junior, rounded out with a $195,833.33 monthly payment as a senior, so long as he fulfilled the following obligations. And hold on, because these are really, really stringent, challenging things here. Has to maintain residence in Gainesville, Florida, which you could argue is, not the most fun thing in the world. Have at least one branded Twitter post and one branded Instagram post per month. Has to do up to 8 fan engagement events per year. And these could include in-person appearances, social media engagements, video conferences, or interviews. None would last longer than 2 hours because we don't want to tire the guy out. He is there to play football after all. And then autograph, and this is hilarious to me, autograph up to 15 pieces of memorabilia per year. Because again, we do not want his throwing hand, which presumably is also his signing hand, to get too tired signing too much crap. So I'm glad we're capping it at $15 per year. We don't want to flood the market.
I should also point out on that a pair of shoes counts as only one item. You cannot send 2 shoes counting as 2 items. That is also in the contract. That was very stipulated in that contract.
Specifically?
So it is specifically in there, yes.
So that's the contract.
If kids are getting contracts like this, we are going to see more 4-year players. Why would I go to the NFL when I'm making $250,000 a month in college?
I don't know that what they promised him as a senior is worth it if he's like actually legitimately a prospect. Like $195,000 a month, doing quick math is what, like $2 million a year? Like that's not that much in the grand scheme of things if you're good. They did make the point to say that the entirety of the contract was worth about as much as what Kenny Pickett is getting paid on his current deal. So, I mean, over the course of the contract, sure.
Fair. But that contract is anticipating him jumping to the NFL after the 3rd year, which is why the lower payment in the senior year. If you get the Texas A&M collective or, Michigan, that Michigan's got a lot of money, one of these schools with a lot of money, they will be able to keep you in school just financially because they may be able to pay you more than definitely more than what you would get as a 2nd-round draft pick, but maybe even more than what you would get as a 1st-round draft pick. And who said it on this very program like 18 months ago? Your boy said it, that they would be able to pay the same thing. We were going to come to a time where you could make more in college than you would jumping to the NFL because the NFL has salary caps. I'm
not ready to agree to that until we see it happen once or twice. Because I'm telling you, so here is my problem with what you and Chris Moxley keep getting on. There is no tangible benefit to the people paying this money to you beyond the fact that it's their favorite team and they want to see them win. Yeah, they are getting nothing on the other, like the consideration in these contracts, like there is none. Like we just read what the consideration is here, which is a legal principle in which both parties have to give something for a contract to be valid. It's called consideration. There's none of that here. Like, so I don't think you're going to have somebody paying $10 million a year writing that check. It might happen once, but there aren't that many people out there with pockets so deep that care that deeply about college football that are getting nothing beyond their personal satisfaction from watching their team win, that they're going to commit that kind of money.
Yeah. I'm with Austin on this, and I would really suggest, if you guys haven't, I think you have to have a subscription to The Athletic to read the whole thing. I'm not 100% sure. If you don't have that, listen to the Audible. I listened to that this morning after reading the article. While this contract is real, they talked multiple times on it. This was never going to happen. The money was never there. It was never going to happen. It was all fake. They brought up something that I've talked about on here, and I wish I had been on, I think it was last week when you guys talked and argued about one of this. I wasn't on the show that you guys argued about that Moxley and Felix one side, Austin on the other, where I was actually on Austin's side, is the top schools are not doing. I feel like we're always on opposite sides of the fence, so it's nice to be standing next to you arm in arm on that one. These top schools are not paying the recruits that much. It's these teams that are trying to get back into the recruiting game. The Tennessees, the Miamis, the Texas A&M, want to be back up there. Like, they're not Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Those teams are not paying these top guys. In fact, most of the time they're going in buying proven players through the transfer portal. I think that is where more of the money is going to go. Now, I have no doubt that, again, these lower-end teams may continue to pay highly for recruits. I do think, based on what happened with Rashada and a lot of the conversation they had, again, with a lot of people within college football, coaches, not GMs, but the people around these programs, everything that happened with this Rashada thing is a cautionary tale for how bad things can get. I think this woke a lot of people up to the fact that there are going to be some sort of regulations, whether it's the teams and schools doing it themselves without any NCAA or anything like that. Like, I would, Felix, I see you shaking your head. I'm trying to think of a good bet to bet with you. No, there's not going to be a recruit who's going to get paid as much as a first round pick in the NFL. It's just not going to happen.
I don't think that's what Felix is saying, in fairness. But
no, what I'm shaking my head at is thinking that the Ohio States, Alabamas, USC's, that they are not going to eventually get into the game to recruit these kids. I don't think that you can just wave the white flag and saying, all right, we're just going to let Dante Moore go to UCLA.
They're doing it, but they're not paying. Like,
Saban just said that he had those two kids come to him with cash demands, and he told them to go elsewhere.
So I can speak from a knowledgeable on Ohio State side of things. I'll just use Ohio State because I do talk to people there. Multiple of those wide receivers that they had were offered more money, and Ohio State said, we're not matching this amount. If you want to come to Ohio State, this is what we're willing to pay you. This is what we can do for your future. You make your decision. We won't hold it against you if you want to go to, say, this to a Miami, who did try and offer one of those kids with a lot more money. If you want to go to Miami, we will wish you the best. But we're not going to match this amount of money. Georgia does the same thing. Alabama does the same thing. They're not going to try and outbid these teams because they don't have to. Again, you look at the teams that are doing it, and it's the teams that need the players and are trying to rebuild what they once were.
Mr. Sharp.
What I'm saying is that as this evolves, Matthew, I understand that Ohio State, Alabama, those schools are saying we don't have to pay you. We can still get Brandon Ennis and Noah Rogers, et cetera, to come to our school. As this evolves, that is not going to be the case. And I'm telling you that those schools are not just going to be able to say, oh, we're just going to recruit people from the transfer portal and pay proven players. If it remains unregulated, and I don't see it, like the NCAA is going to fall apart here soon. I don't know where you're going to get regulation from and not violate antitrust law. That's another issue, which is why I don't think that there will be regulation. They are going to have to recruit these kids as freshmen eventually. Yep, I get it. Nick Saban said, I'm not paying this kid, and Ohio State said, I'm not paying this kid. But you're going to end up losing out on Dylan Royola. You're going to end up losing out on some wide receiver recruit that you want because you said, you weren't going to pay him, and Miami said that they would. Or you lose out on Luther Burden. That's all I'm saying is that we're still in the early stages of this. And I think that as we move forward, we're going to see those contract numbers get bigger, and we're going to see all of the big players in college football get into the game. It's not just going to be Miami and Texas A&M. I understand that that's where we're at now, but I don't think that that's where we are going to be 5-10 years from now if NIL continues as it is now.
But I mean, I maybe I'm explaining my point wrong. It's not that Ohio State and Alabama and Georgia aren't willing to do that. They are. They're willing to pay. The wide receiver class from Ohio State is getting NIL money. All of those guys are. They're just saying, this is what we are willing to pay you. We're not going over that. If that means that they lose out on a recruit or two, okay, I really don't think that they're going to care. It didn't matter Alabama locking up the number one class in the nation and telling guys no. They said this, like, look, it's all, you're worth what someone's willing to pay you. That's how the saying goes, right? If Alabama looks at Austin Nace, wide receiver, says, this is what we're willing to pay you, and then Miami comes in and says, hey, Austin Nace, we don't have a great track record of developing people in the NFL, but we're willing to pay you $10 million more than what Alabama is. It's up to Austin to decide what he wants to do. I think that's how the game is going to continue to be played. Now, maybe the money does increase over the years as more and more teams are willing to put more and more into it, but I don't think you're going to see these schools like, again, I'm using those schools specifically because they have specific track records of developing talent to go into the NFL. I do not think we're going to see the Ohio States, Alabamas, Georgias, Michigan, even of the world come in and say, we're going to get in a bidding war for Dylan Raiola because he's the best quarterback and they will offer him what they do. And then if Nebraska comes in and says, we're going to pay you $18 million a year, all those other schools, I guarantee you, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Have fun at Nebraska. We'll take this guy right here who's the fifth quarterback in the class and is willing to take the money that we have and maybe a decent step down from Dylan Raiola, but we'll still win with him.
That's a dangerous game. I think that that's a dangerous game if you're a big-time program saying, all right, we're not going to pay you. If you want to remain at the top level in recruiting, I think eventually that you will have to pay. I understand that that is not what is happening now. I'm saying eventually we're going to get there because recruiting success, it builds on itself. So if you can continue to have recruiting, it's going to be these teams with money that start getting rolling with wins on the field. We got to get Noah Hills in here. Let's bring Noah in here. We've never had two guests. We never had two guests on the show. You can find Noah at Noah More Parties on Twitter. He is a contributor at BDGE. You can find Noah More Parties on YouTube. Same name on TikTok. And now the same name on the World Wide Web, the internets. Noah has joined the internets. Noah, before I am going to talk to you about why you started this project, but can you give me your general impressions? And I know that you are the running back guy. Give me your general impressions about this 2023 running back class.
Hey, what's up? My general impressions are good. I think it's good. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good at the top. I think it's really deep. I think there's a really solid 5, in my opinion, at the top, and then like a dozen to 15 more guys that are interesting.
The reason I asked that question is because Twitter has had this narrative that, it's Bijan Robinson and then a bunch of just dudes. That is now, what Twitter is. And that these 2023 draft picks aren't worth what they were because the running back class is relatively weak. What's your response to that?
I think the running back class is weaker than the people thought it was in 2021, but I don't think it's weak or much weaker than relative to what it was perceived as, relative to how other classes kind of depreciate in value as they get closer and kids go back to school and kids get hurt and have down years. Like, I don't think anything catastrophic happened in this class. The kids just played college careers. Some of them turned out to be really good. Others not as good as we thought when they were freshmen, but here they are now for the most part. And I think it's still a really good class.
You can go to noahmoreparties.com. Get Devy running back rankings, rookie running back rankings, dynasty running back rankings. You can follow Noah at No More Parties, wherever you basically get your fantasy football content. Do you have a favorite that you've scouted thus far? Favorite and least favorite?
Zach Evans is either him or A-Chain are my favorite running backs in this class. They're incredibly fun to watch. Their numbers are good. They're just super fun, really good players, I think. And I think luckily for people who do like them, they both have detractors and like, you know, legitimate things in their profiles that are going to cause them to maybe drop in the draft or drop in rookie drafts. But those are two of my favorite guys. Least favorite?
I know that you hate Jahmyr Gibbs with the intensity of 1,000 suns. So not Jahmyr Gibbs. You can give me another running back that you are not that you don't particularly like in this class.
I think relative, like based on what consensus has or what my perception of consensus is, I don't think consensus has completely crystallized yet. Tank Bigsby and Sean Tucker are two guys I'm going to be pretty low on.
You can't just leave us with that.
Oh, should I expand? Okay.
Yeah, tell us why. Tell us
Okay,
why. That's how this.
okay.
That's how we do this around here.
Sean Tucker simply does not have that dog in him. I don't want to say he's soft because I don't know that it's some sort of like personality trait of his, but I don't think he doesn't like the size issues that people have with Jahmyr Gibbs and especially A-Chain equally apply to Sean Tucker, even though he's not nearly as small as those guys, given the sort of power he runs with. He breaks just as few tackles as those guys do. I don't know that he's like I think he's a decent zone runner, and I think he's explosive. I don't think he's nearly the pass catcher that his reception totals and his target share would belie. I think he's kind of a poor man's Travis Etienne, which isn't a bad thing, but I think a lot of people view him as like just a Travis Etienne, and I don't think he's quite that. For Tank Bigsby, he just hasn't been very good in the past couple of years, and I know there's been reasons for that. Bad offensive line, Brian Harsin, that program's just been a joke. Maybe he was hurt as a sophomore, but he wasn't good last year either, really. He breaks a lot of tackles. He's good in the open field. I think he's got good athletic tools. I think he's sort of like a Miles Sanders type guy, like if he like at his peak, maybe. But I don't know. I'm just not hoping for much more from Tank Bigsby than that.
Talk to me about why you started the website and that project.
Yeah, why did I start the website? I think I started the website because I just want to put out the content that I want to put out, and being beholden to somebody else's content schedule or formatting requirements or, I don't know, seasonal topics wasn't something that I am particularly interested in, at least on a regular basis. And so doing something independent, I think, fit my priorities. So yeah, it actually started as an idea for like a sort of like a draft guide, but like a comprehensive running back guide. Like a comprehensive running back guide about, Devy Dynasty, the rookie class that I would sell as like a one-time product, and sort of morphed into like a subscription-based website where I could just post year-round. So yeah, that's kind of the story of that.
When I first started consuming your content, you took basically an analytical approach, and it was very digestible. I think that's why I gravitated to reading your stuff. But your process has since evolved, and you're getting into film work. Talk to me about that evolution.
Yeah, I think my analytical work was always kind of like wannabe film work. Like I wasn't one of these. There's lots of people doing analytical work on Twitter and things like that who are training models and trying to like maximize R-squared values of, trying to find the most predictive metrics for like fantasy points per game in the NFL. So there's a lot of work being done with like draft capital and speed scores and there's just a lot of, let's boil things down to like these few variables that we can test really well and then spit out a number. And that's just not something I'm interested in. I was much more focused on using numbers to try to understand players better. And I think this kind of evolution, I guess, of now doing a lot of film work was born out of a desire to just be able to speak more intelligently about players in general. But also, I think the kind of film work I'm doing with a lot of charting of traits and grading decision-making processes on different plays and things like that, I'm doing the same sort of analytical stuff I was doing. I'm just watching the players play in order to generate the numbers, if that makes sense.
You can find him on Twitter at Noah More Parties. You're not as sassy as you used to be. It used to be where I wasn't sure if you were serious about stuff. I'm like, no, it's serious. This is a joke. But now Noah's just giving straightforward, boring analysis about running backs and not roasting fools out here.
I think that's true. I think I used to be a little bit more of a dick on Twitter, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if I've just grown out of it. I think I have noticed
maturity.
That I have a lot of there are a lot of accounts like the way that I was, who I have blocked just or muted just because they're annoying. And so I don't know what the chicken or the egg was or which came first, but I think I've kind of gone away from being an asshole on Twitter. I also think something like in the last year, since I've been like really focusing on this stuff, I'm a little bit larger of a like I'm not big, but like I don't just have like 600 followers anymore. So punching down on smaller accounts is kind of an asshole move, where those same accounts a year ago like was punching up. So I can't be a dick anymore because I don't know. It's perceived as asshole behavior even more.
No More Parties on TikTok, No More Parties on YouTube, and now the interwebs, the World Wide Webs. You can catch Noah Hills. Noah, we appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to join us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, all right.
Later, no.
All right.
If you guys are watching this on YouTube or if you're listening on the podcast, the link to Noah's website will be in the description for both. So you guys don't even have to go search it. Just go click on the link.
There we go. This episode is all over the place tonight because we don't have, this is not a guest, but we do have one more voice to hear from. So if you are a longtime listener to Devy Debate, at one point, Chris Moxley wasn't one of the panelists. He would come on at the end of the show and tell us what we did wrong on the show. Barnabas Lee, probably the most astute of our staff here at Campus to Canton, has asked to take that role. And so, all right, Barnabas, we're going to bring you on, and you can tell us how we did tonight. How do we do?
Not too bad. I think it helped that there were a lot of guests on here, and so maybe less space for you guys to make some mistakes. Although, Felix, did I hear you say Kyle Kitley? Because I'm confused who that is. At one point, and you guys also talked about Baron Morton, which I do want to hear all your quick thoughts on as well. I also wanted to mention for Matt's last player, Tyler Black, we also would have accepted 2015 Tennessee State cornerback Tyler Black as well. That was also an option, just so you know. I know that was one of the two you were going with, but yeah, that was the other one. So if you had gone with the other one, you probably would have gotten it. I wanted to mention Austin bringing out the definition of a contract is one of them is consideration. And I know a lot of America knows that because of Mike Ross from Suits fame, if you will. So with the bar napkin contract. So that was an interesting one. And I had some thoughts on NIL that I don't know if you guys are interested in or not. But yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the biggest point with the NIL stuff is really, if you know, kind of same thing that Noah was talking about, like boiling down to statistics here. If you boil it down, the NFL is going to see these personality traits pop up right away, right? They're going to see whether a kid wants to win or the kid just wants money, right? And that's fine at the college level, but they're almost self-selecting into whether a school sees that like personality that they want, right? Whether it's like some of these guys, like, for example, that came out of LSU in recent years, where the coaches were like, we're just not going to talk about their personalities, right? Those select guys, that list is going to pop up, in terms of NIL deals now. And so it's like this self-selection thing where I think it's going to be true of freshman deals. And then you're going to see a lot more NFL value coming from these transfer deals that are coming out in NIL. So I do think those are different mechanisms, but those are my thoughts there. Yeah.
Love it. By the way, Barnabas, I had DM'd you. You missed one other error on tonight's show as well, which you have no reason to know. About a year ago, we had 7 guests on the show at one time to discuss whether it was weirder that Felix had never had eggs or Matt had never had a salad. So we have had more than 2 guests, or 2 or more guests on the show one night. I did have to toss that one out too.
Okay.
I
missed that one.
The hijinks. We appreciate you, Barnabas. Barnabas will be back next week. Hey, stick around for the after show. If we haven't had enough people on the microphone today, Mike Valerie will be coming on for the after show. But that's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies, Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. So I guess now you have enough time until you get on Matthew's nerves and he tells you you have to shut it down. So
I know. I will never
places.
forget when he said
20
Mike
minutes.
makes me nervous. I don't know. I just keep thinking about that all the time.
I said that?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. If, like every single day, I'm like, is that an insult or a compliment? Still don't know. Kind of love it.
When did I tell you that you make me nervous?
No, you didn't tell me that. You just said it on the after show one time.
He was a real wild card in some of the early episodes that he came up.
Well, yeah, I know. We've had to delete episodes, and I don't think Mike was on those. I think that was more of a Felix Chris Moxley conversation.
Oh, wow.
We did have to delete one after show.
Yes.
And it was because of Felix, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it was because of Mike. The only thing I don't is I love you, Mike. You entertain me. I haven't got to get fully through back to Devy today, but I've been very much enjoying your and Corey's stuff.
Oh, thank you.
It's more because when you come on here, you don't cut the episode at some point, and I do get up extremely early in the morning. That's the only thing I don't love. Is like, all right, we're gonna wrap up in 20 minutes, and then as soon as we're wrapping up, and then Mike, you think of like another conversation you want to jump into, and it's interesting. So I don't want to cut the episode, but at the same time, like I need sleep. So
yeah, no, that's okay. You like messaged us at like 5 a.m. today, I think, something like that, in a certain chat. I think it was a Devy chat.
It was at 3:30 in the morning when I saw that you called out my rankings. Like I was under the understanding I'm not doing Devy rankings anymore, so this is news to me.
Yeah, it was wild looking at those. Oh, sorry, what were you about to say, Felix?
I have to jump, but I do. We've been playing this game. I guess we haven't played this game on air. We've been playing it behind. Have we done it on the show?
No, it was the after show.
Oh, so nobody knows what we're talking about.
Pissed myself laughing because of Colin. Colin, Mr. White Toast, sitting there going, "That's the one with Ray Allen, right?"
Well, Austin, let me set it up here because you can't. I mean, the audience doesn't know what we're talking about. So, we have been playing this game where I give a number of movies and see if any of my Caucasian brothers have seen them. And then they give me a list of movies to see if I've seen them. And so last week it was Love and Basketball. Mike, have you seen Love and Basketball?
Nope.
I think Glory was one. Denzel Washington, Morgan Freeman, Matthew Broderick.
Yep, seen
classic movie. Don't Be a Menace. Have you seen Don't Be a Menace?
Sounds familiar, but I'm going to say no.
Oh my God! It sounds familiar.
I do want to say this. I do want to say this. I was the only white person in theater for Haunted House. Loved it.
For what?
Was it the they did the
one of the Scream, one of the pair, one of those Wayans brothers movies
of horror movies, and I was like, dude, we're all white people. This movie looks hilarious.
The Best Man. Have you seen The Best Man?
No.
Love Jones.
No.
All right, so 0 for 5. So I would have won that round. Well, I guess if I think I got 2 of you guys' movies. One was White Chicks. Who hasn't seen White Chicks?
I would not have said that. It's
so behind the scenes, so Love and Basketball is a movie with Sanaa Lathan and oh my god, I forgot the dude.
Omar Epps. I've seen that.
Yeah, Omar Epps. You had last week you said no, you didn't.
I was not here last week. I was not here.
Oh, you wasn't on. Oh, he wasn't here.
I did Chris no and shows last week.
And Colin not only knew none of them, but he also was trying to act like he did, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's the one that like insert like black person who is definitely not in that movie."
Right. Dang it! I wish we were still recording.
Well, I mean, remember he was the one who had to ask for the definition of unk in you of all people, Austin.
Are they related?
Mid episode.
Yes. So I thought I had some movies off the top of my head, some additional movies. I don't have any today. I do have to jump though, but I do want to continue to play that game until we like exhausted because that's a funny game to me.
Okay.
All right. Interesting.
All right, Mike. I'm gonna let you drive. Mike. Peace. The other thing, the last thing I was going to say, I don't know if my audio was terrible today. They were telling me in the private chat that my audio was bad, so I apologize.
I thought it sounded fine.
Into for 3 years, like I don't know how much longer that mic has.
That's true. I guess you're right. It's a lot of spit and yelling, and So okay.
I do have to say this though about microphones. I just learned what the buttons are on the back of my mic this past episode with Corey, because I don't know if you guys know what like the dial on the back of the Yeti is. I'm not really sure. You guys probably do, but anyway,
I don't have one.
Yeah, I don't have a Yeti either.
Okay, there's 4 modes, and I didn't know what the modes were, but I got tired of hearing my wife perfectly like all the way across the house playing with the dog. Like I had super hearing. And I found out that I had like the setting for like the whole room. Like it's just like it amplifies stuff across the room. Anyway, so that was pretty exciting for me.
So how was the Senior Bowl, guys? I mean, besides getting stuck were you guys in Atlanta? Is that where you're later?
Yep, in Atlanta. Mike chose the Howard Johnson closest to the airport, and that was an experience, let me tell you.
I was like, you told me how much it was. I was like, what? Did you choose the cheapest hotel? Like, you guys could have stayed like in like a normal, like, whatever.
The light switches didn't work in that room. We literally had to walk all the way in and turn the lamps on with the door propped open. Which, by the way, the door didn't swing closed by itself. So we didn't realize the door was like not closed all the way until like halfway through the night. And we were like, oh.
There's a security guard in the lobby, so it's in a safe neighborhood. Guaranteed. Yeah.
I feel so much safer.
I'm not like a hotel snob. I don't really know hotels like that either. So I always just go for cheap stuff, man. I'm just a cheap guy. That was weird. You just switched cameras like that was so awkward.
Yeah, this camera every once in a while goes blurry. I don't know.
I do want to say when Noah came on here with just the black screen for a good solid like 20 seconds, I was like, this is some serious Kanye energy. Like, what if he just did the whole thing with the black screen? I was like, that would have been so baller.
So when we pretty early when we started the show, we had Kyle Francis on, who formerly of Devy Watch. He's now just retired from everything, and he literally was like sitting in the dark.
No, he was sitting by a what was it? He had like a.
That was the second time he was on.
Oh, was it?
The first time he was on, like it was literally like he was in his living room, and just all the lights were out, and he was like sitting here like this, like just like this, like chatting with.
Yeah, it was
like, does he not want to show his face because he doesn't have like his face is like his thing on Twitter or like anything? Yeah. I was like, is this?
You're talking about the one that me and Felix did with him, right? Because you were busy.
There was one where I was on with as well. It was the 3 of us and then him. And,
so that was the one that he was sitting at the. I can't think of the fire, right?
There was one where he was. Yes, there was also one where he was sitting at the fire, and he actually did a bunch of. He does some CFF site ones too, like when they do group mocks, and he's almost always like out sitting by that fire.
Yeah, the first time I know he was sitting outside because like you could hear police cars going by at one point. He was talking about it was like a beautiful night out and that he just wanted to go sit outside and not bother his wife and everything. So, but I do remember that. Yeah, it was really hard to see him off the screen.
I miss him.
But the Senior Bowl, that was
Noah
cool.
chat was going wild too in the background. I don't know if either of you guys caught that. But
What was?
Yeah, his
Noah's
cat. He was
cat.
Oh, I
moving
did
around
see
like,
it.
but Mobile was good. Apparently, Tuesday was the hottest practice ever recorded in Senior Bowl history.
Ooh, wish I had shorts that day. I actually went to Walmart looking for shorts, but I just couldn't pull the trigger on it.
Well, it got cold in the next 2 days, so we were just like, "Oh, okay, this is weird."
Some people were trying to look good for their interviews that last day, and they were wearing a little less clothes, showing a little more skin. And I'm like, it's not that serious. You can be warm today. It's all right. But anyway, it was cool, man. It really was. It was cool talking to the players. Talking to them in person just made me not want to like talk badly about them online. You know what I'm saying? Where I'm like, yo, I can't. Like, I love talking to Michael Wilson. I'm like, yeah, I got to bump him up like top 10. I just got to feel like
Steve
I gotta do it.
Avila, the guy you want to just be stuck at an airport bar with. Steve Avila is that guy.
Isaiah Land was
100%.
nice to talk to as well.
Yeah.
That was good.
Zach Pickens.
Who was your guys' favorite one to talk to?
Probably Avila. He seemed really genuine. Yeah.
Just a nice guy.
Yeah.
We were like, "Hey, Steve, can we get a minute?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, let's go all the way over there." And like, he just like, he took the lead. He was just like walking across the room. He's like, "All right, let's talk about it." And I brought up the national championship, and he was like, "Oh yeah, we learned a lot from it." And it was just like a good interview. Like he was an exciting person to talk to, and just like he had a lot of energy. It was 7:30 in the morning, but he was just like had a lot of energy.
Yeah.
So fun guy to talk to. Isaiah Land was super like eloquent as well. FAMU guy, he's not as prepared. Like I talked to Jacorian Bennett, and he had the rehearsed Maryland lines because Loxley says those exact same lines during interviews all the time. Loxley was there on Tuesday too, but Jacorian Bennett had those like Maryland like memorized lines out. But Land seemed like a good guy. I was like, I didn't even know what to call him. I was like, "Are you an edge?" And he's like, "Well, I'm playing like linebacker out here, but like I'm playing whatever a team needs me to." And it's just like was explaining it, and he was like very articulate about it. So I was very impressed with that.
Nice.
Zach Pickens was probably the worst in my opinion. Straight up.
Come on, now we can't air this. God damn, this is what we said. You make us nervous, Mike.
I mean,
interesting. Okay.
Whatever.
You don't have to elaborate. If you don't want. But.
It just wasn't like very elaborate answers, to be honest with you. And so
or engaged,
Yeah.
How'd you get ready? Same old. Okay, cool.
Moxley's still. He's probably not in the comments anymore. It's his wife.
Okay. Also, I do actually have to call you guys out. When you guys like don't show up to a show, one of the 4 hosts, but you guys are in the comments the whole time. I don't really understand that. I don't really get that. And I don't want to call anyone out, but I feel like it's pretty consistent. Actually, just all of you.
So I'll be out the next 6 weeks because I probably will be working till about 11 p.m. every single night.
Right. Yep. That season.
But I will be able to like pop it on and like watch it. So I will be able to comment while I'm working. I just can't like dedicate an hour and a half of my night to like being attentive to.
Yeah. Making fun of Felix for not knowing players and stuff like that.
And last week I was stuck in the middle of a blizzard and my internet was kind of shoddy, so I figured.
Did you want to risk it?
No. Are you kidding me? Like Felix can go a whole show with a messed up microphone, but heaven forbid, I was surprised he didn't yell at me for drinking mid-interview with Alan True. We get yelled at for eating.
No eating, no drinking.
No eating, no drinking. Mike's not being on right, camera's wrong, so.
Yeah.
But it's also nice to have a night off.
Yeah. Okay. I get that. But the Senior Bowl was cool, man. It was
in Texas it is, yes. The whole state.
It felt weird being at the Senior Bowl because when you got there, you realize like how poor of an environment it is to even grade like running backs. Because I know people were like, I don't know why Zach Charbonnet didn't show up, and I'm like sitting there like, I know exactly why Zach Charbonnet didn't go up. They can't even hit people here. Like that's the one thing he does really well. Like there's no reason for him to show up here.
I commented on there was someone posted a video of like Chase Brown running over Riley Moss on a goal line drill, and I was like, that's just a cheap shot at that point.
They weren't supposed to tackle, were they?
Yeah, they were told
hitting.
Like
Riley
even
Moss
if they were like holding on for them to. If they held on to them for too long, the coaches were yelling at them like, "Let them go!" And so like, they were told not to hit these guys, and like. You're bragging about a running back running over a guy that was standing on his like flat on his feet with his heels all the way back. Like that, that rubbed me the wrong way. I was not happy.
Yeah, and these edges would have been putting up like triple digits for sacks if they got to.
Yeah, none of the quarterbacks on that American team would be standing if they let Derek Hall actually hit those quarterbacks.
Yeah. Watching him was pretty great. He's definitely a huge riser.
The coaches had to basically bench Derek Hall. Like they were like, dude, you're ruining practice. Like you got to sit down for a second. He was just causing too much havoc. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
No, it was cool. It was cool. And then what was that one drill that you like didn't like for linemen? Like you were just kind of like didn't like how they were hitting, so you try to demonstrate on me what like they're teaching compared to what you want them to teach.
Yeah, so I was confused why Kerrigan was teaching this. He was essentially taking these defensive linemen and having them like push the linemen with both hands from one direction. And I was like, you're exposing your total side. You're going to get blown out of the play if you do that. So I was a little bit confused why that was happening. I think strip drills in general are kind of dumb, to be honest with you. Like they're not really applicable. You just like aren't punching out too many fumbles in a given game. And so I don't know why that's one of your warm-up drills, because it's kind of like, okay, like even interception drills are more effective than that, because they're in today's NFL, the only fumbles you're really getting are strip sacks. So like, I don't know. I was a little bit unhappy, but yeah, the lineman drill where they're pushing like sideways like this, I don't get that. So I guess like after you get through on a swim move, you're pushing out. That I don't know. I don't have a clue, but yeah, that drill didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, we got to meet. I couldn't talk ball as much as I thought with people there. Like I really thought like I could like really actually socialize. It was not one of those events. Like it was like you're working. Everyone's got their $4,000 camera. I got my little iPhone up, and but it's just like you don't want to miss anything. Like everyone's just glued. They don't want to miss anything. And even being there, I thought it was pretty crazy the difference of opinions. Like we're all seeing the same thing, but then people had different things that they didn't or did not like about a certain like play. And I just thought that was pretty fun too, because like like people were like, "Oh, Jaden Reed's like the best running receiver out here." I'm like, I don't know. He's a speedster and he's doing speedster stuff. I mean, he's hitting my expectation, not going past it. I don't really understand why people are blowing up about it. It's not like he's making amazing catch point stuff or like anything physical, or like blowing up somebody. Like I was like, he's just running by him, which is what I thought he does anyway.
Was that was that like other like, I don't know how to put it, like content creators, or are you talking about like actual NFL scouts were out there saying that, like specifically about Jaden Reed? Because I know obviously I have the ability to, like, I watched all your guys' videos before we put them out, was listening to the podcast. Also, I know a lot of the stuff you guys talked about, and it was very different. Some of the stuff you guys have talked about, even behind the scenes, and what we've seen come out from other people on Twitter. So I'm curious, is it like people, was it actual like other, like, was it other websites and stuff saying that they had different opinions than you guys?
It was other content creators. Content creators. Yeah.
My one thing on that would be, I wonder if, just being honest, I wonder if that's because this is the first time they're seeing most of these players compared to
what of our homework has been. Yeah. I was trying to talk to some scouts. Couldn't really talk to any scouts. I thought I saw some New York Jet beat reporters when I was like away from Barnabas for a little bit, and I was like, I gotta ask these guys about Zach Wilson. I mean, I just got to. And they just wrote like the main fan pages for them. It's kind of like what they were. But they're all like, yeah, they're gonna shove him in the back. It's just gonna be he's gonna stick around. No one's gonna trade for him. No one's gonna pick up that tab. And I was like, all right, I just thought I'd ask what you guys thought since it's your team. So
yeah, I mean, so I will say we didn't hear from the NFL scouts. They were on the other side of the stadium, and we tried, but we couldn't get in on the other side. And so we didn't actually hear from them. We did talk to Dane real quick, and I've heard Dane Brugler say on other outlets as well that he thought Jaden Reed had a really good week. I don't remember him seeing him that often in reps, frankly. I think part of the reason why a lot of like content creators are saying that Jaden Reed had a really good week is because the reps that he did have, he caught the ball, like he came down with it, as opposed to like someone like Andre Yoshivas, who even when he was out there, I don't remember a single one-on-one he won. And when he was like bad. Barely, he wasn't coming down with the ball. As a big guy, at least come down with the ball, right? Like whether or not your feet are in bounds or something. And he was like, there was like one play where he landed shoulder first out. And like all the other ones, he wasn't even catching it. So
there was one off his chest in the middle of the end zone. I mean, off his chest. I like remember, like I was like, he looks like a good athlete and he's got good receiver play. We'll see about the technician work. The receiver play was not good. I really thought he had fine ball skills, but it was just not even that.
Do you think he's no longer draftable? I mean, I know the NFL kind of likes, like, what was that Moritz Bowinger or whatever the front couple years
Yeah.
ago that was like basically like never played football. What was like that? Like I think he went like the 6th or something. Like I wonder if Yusovis can still basically just get stashed because he's fast as shit.
Yeah, I think that's what's gonna happen. I think he blows up the combine and he gets like a super late day 3. Yeah, 6th, 7th rounder. But we'll never hear from him. But yeah. So
I mean, he's going to be a scouts pick for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Felix, also my top 5 groceries, Publix chicken tenders. I always go with some sort of either onion or mushroom and some sort of beef, and then ginger beer. Is that 5 things? Maybe. I don't know.
5 things.
Yeah.
So no incense or what the fuck were Felix Axe bodies? No, I don't know. I don't know what is that.
It was
Axe
the
body?
weirdest shit. No, yeah, he had like 3 food items and then 2 just like random ass things. What was it?
Incense was one of them. I know.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to remember the asparagus. Like he goes specifically to get asparagus,
a ribeye, asparagus.
How much incense do you buy? Like, do you just huff that?
Apparently,
shit, like,
a lot with the way he talked about it. I mean, a lot.
Maybe it's just he buys it so rarely that when he does, it's like a high. So that's why it's one of his top.
That's
5.
what comes when you have coffee with a tarot card reader. I'm just saying, or a Long Island medium or something.
Yeah, he locks himself in the bathroom while the kids are like trying to play with him. He's just sniffing the incense. This is what I'm supposed to calm me down.
We've got some Publix chicken tenders fans in the chat.
Pub subs hit different. Yeah, that's the only thing I miss about living in Florida. So that and my buddy Justin Crowfoot, but that's about it.
It was also fun learning about football players from Barnabas and just how much he hates everybody. I know you guys caught in the chat how much he hates JSN, but I straight up asked him. I was like, let's just hypothetically say JSN is a wide receiver 1 for a single season. Will you say you're proven wrong in just 0.5 seconds? No.
Good man.
I think it's much harder to claim that someone is good than it is for someone to say someone is bad, right? And so to say someone is a long-term good player, 1 season of production isn't going to be enough.
2, 3.
Victor Cruz was up there, right? Are we calling Victor Cruz one of the top players in the league for a while? Like he had 1 good season, 2.
Whoa! Victor Cruz had 3 or 4 really good seasons.
Yeah, he led the downfall of the
Was he good though? Is he even in consideration for Are we talking one of the fantasy elites for that?
I think he's a name that the casual fans.
Round?
I think he's a name that one of the casual fans remember for 10 years.
He was free, which is what makes him a fantasy Hall of Fame kind of guy. He just kind of came out of nowhere and was awesome, and then his knee fell apart.
Terrence Williams was borderline very viable for a while too, and are we gonna call him a good wide receiver?
1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns, and then got injured with a 900, practically 1,000 yard season, 998 with 4, and then 337, 586, 101 his last 2 years.
3 good games. 3 good.
That's
seasons.
3 really good seasons, especially for fantasy. Targeted
10 points a game.
143. Oh, probably.
I'm not trying to change.
I bet it's 13, 14, 15.
Yeah, with 9 and 10
1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns.
1,509 first year. Almost 1,100 and then 10 touchdowns. That's the killer right there. That's what.
Okay, but are we calling him a good receiver? Was he a good wide receiver?
Yeah, for 3 years. For 3 years, yes.
He was productive in an offense that was throwing a lot, sure, but I'm not calling him a good receiver that we were first of all, no one was scouting him correct. No one was scouting him coming out of college, but obviously, but are we I think the baseline for what we call a good player in the NFL is too low.
So Tom Brady is the only good player in NFL history. Barnabas says.
That's not what I'm saying.
Saying.
The real reason why I'm rooting for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, because it backs up the analytics, right? The difference between Pat Mahomes and the next quarterback is literally the second place quarterback. That's how big of a difference. Mahomes is dusting every other quarterback in terms of analytics, and so back up the analytics. I think Mahomes needs to show that give us some credence here, the numbers people.
So I brought this up because I wanted to say it's a good thing. Like Barnes is looking for perfection. Doesn't like say good enough. And I just kind of love that. I'm just like, this guy just doesn't smudge the lines. I'm willing to smudge the lines all the time. I'm like, yep, bias gonna give him a little extra bonus point there.
Oh, I've seen your Devy rankings. I know
I was about to say.
happy to.
Yeah.
Mike would not let me move Noah Sewell down, and I was like, "This guy's."
I was like, he's gonna go in the second with his name alone. Like, can't.
He started at linebacker too, and I was like, "Keep going, keep going, keep going."
I worry about him in the modern NFL. Not that I'm like some sort of defensive scouting expert, but with his, like, I don't know that he's a sideline to sideline guy. And if he's not, I don't know. Like those guys are, it's a tough projection these days for that position. Like, I don't know. Like you can't even beef him up a few pounds and move him to edge because I don't think he has the flexibility to do that. Like you'd have to play him as like a strong side run defender kind of. Like I honestly don't know what his role will be in the NFL. I mean, I'm interested to see, but I'm a big Drew Sanders guy, so I was a little offended, Mike. Not gonna lie.
We'll DM you later about that.
Okay.
But all right, anyway, back to the Senior Bowl though. So
last thing, make it quick.
Last thing.
I told you 20 minutes. I've given you 21.
We really wanted to do like a comedy thing the last day. They cut the interviews for like the last day. Like you just can't talk to them. It was kind of annoying because sometimes like when you get on the field, like they're still stretching their circles, so you can grab a whole group of them if you really want to be that bold. But we wanted to like just be relaxed and be like, hey, you guys just had a whole week together. Like you guys have gotten to get to know each other. Like who do you think has the worst drip? Like who's got the worst swag? And just like interview them like that. Or
the answer is Tyson Baggin, by the way, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, but we also wanted to ask him too, like stuff that was like, yeah, you guys know each other really well. Like, who would you not want to date your sister if you had a sister? Just be something funny like that, and like be really relaxed around them. But didn't get the opportunity to, and I don't know. Some of those interviews, man, people were pushy. Like you had to get your guy.
What's going to be interesting is obviously would love for you guys to go back next year. If you just look at that possible QB class as well, how deep that has a chance to be with the court. Bo Nix, Michael Penix, Devin Leary. Who am I forgetting? KJ Jefferson went back. He's a senior. Jaden Daniels. Like there's a lot of names that could end up going to that season. There's only the 6 guys, right? So like, I think you could probably go through the list and find 10 names. I don't think running back's going to be that deep, but
yeah, I actually
names there next year.
I wrote my first article in 10 months today out of hatred that Twitter deleted my long ass thread yesterday because I typed it up last night and I was like, I'm not going to post at midnight. I'll just close my laptop. It'll be all right. And then my laptop does the auto update and like it's just gone. So I wrote my first article in a while last night, but it was pretty much like projecting way too early 2024 to like draft cap for skill players. But I wrote like, a section of players that are popular that I just will not be in on. And in that section, I wrote every single 6-year QB. Just gone. Just don't care. Anyway, so
don't hate it.
Yeah,
don't hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're all right. That's it. Good night, everybody.